and thank you for tuning in to Blake's New York Kitchen one more time. Today I'm going to make something that's very important to me. It's probably the first thing I learned how to make. It's called Tuna Noodle Casserole, or Tuna Surprise. Now, this dish was originally conceived or put together in Portland, Oregon in the 1930s. But it didn't get popular in the United States until the 1950s with the advent of Campbell Soup's cookbook and line of creamy soups. So Campbell's Cream of Mushroom Soup. From that point forward, it became a staple in American households all during the 1950s and early 60s. And it's something that my mom used to make. You've heard that before. And it's something that I learned how to cook very early on. It is the simplest recipe. It requires no cutting, no chopping. The most difficult thing it probably requires is shredding cheese. So if you don't have a cheese shredder, you'll need it. It's tuna, it's pasta, it's it's tuna and pasta and cheese. All right. Now the original recipe called for a bechamel sauce, mushrooms, and some kind of green vegetable. And if it was called Tuna Surprise, it often included hard-boiled eggs. The whole point of making casseroles in the 1950s was to create a one-pot dish, very simple, that had both a starch, a protein, and a vegetable, all in one container that you could stick in the oven, let it cook, and have dinner on the table when somebody got home. Very straightforward idea, and actually a pretty good one. What I like about it is it has inexpensive ingredients. It'll feed you for a couple of days because a casserole pan is usually pretty big. And if you like cheese, if you like macaroni and cheese, this is like macaroni and cheese with tuna. It's delicious. It's a really neat pan. If you don't have one, I would recommend picking one up. It is a pan designed to boil pasta. And it has a built-in strainer, which can make life a little bit easier. Once it gets to this point, we bring it over to the stove, turn on the heat. Some people don't like to salt the water, but I do. For one thing, it slightly brings down the boiling temperature, and for another, it adds a little bit of flavor to the pasta when it's done. Okay, so our water is boiling, and now it's time to add the pasta. Not quite a rolling boil, but it's very close. I've got about a pound of elbow macaroni, and I've got them, they're kind of small, so. Give that a quick stir. So here we're going to open up our tuna cans. Now I've got the cheapest tuna I could find in water, also in oil. I'm going to get a nice big bowl. And I'm going to get my cheese shredder. Now, I like to use Cracker Barrel cheese, but you can use any kind of cheddar cheese you like. This one is extra sharp yellow, and I have an already opened wrapper of the sharp white. So I'm going to combine these two together. Okay, well, it's almost showtime with the pasta. We're getting nice and big. As I said before, some people refer to this stuff as macaroni, and that's what they are. They're elbow macaroni. You can use any kind of pasta, really. I haven't tried it with spaghetti yet because I think that would be, but any bite-size pasta should do. So if you like farfalle, use farfalle. If you like, you know, rolatinis work really well. Noodles, if you like, you know, like dumplings, flat dumplings, or just any kind of large noodle will do the trick as well. But I'm rather fond of elbows. I think elbows work pretty well. Okay. Now, here's the beauty of this pan, this pot. It has a built-in strainer, which means I can strain the pasta without having to pour it off into a colander. And in this case, I'm going to pour off all this pasta water. You don't need that. It's still hot, so I'm going to put it back on the stove. It's better if you don't rinse it. And I'm putting it right back into the same pot I was using, only without the strainer. Let's get it all in there if we can. The most important part of this is making sure that everything is combined and that all the flavors are running through all the pasta. So when I put stuff into it, I'm going to give it a really complete stir. The first thing I'm going to put in this case, is my tuna. Again, it's just chunk light tuna, plain chunk light tuna. Probably the cheapest I could find. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And I like to use a mixture of tuna in oil and tuna in water. If you want it a little looser, you put in more oil. If you want it a little tighter, you know, either you leave it in the oven longer or you use a little bit of oil tuna. Right? And like I said, I want this combined all the way. So I'm breaking the tuna up as fine as I can with my fork as I'm scraping it in there. When you see a big piece like that, you want to break it up, as the tuna should not be clumped all in one place. You want it throughout the dish. There we go. Next thing we're going to add is salt, pepper. It's literally just a hit of salt. Not too much. Be careful with the salt, because remember, there's a lot of salt in the cheese, which is going to go in afterwards. There's a lot of salt in the cream of mushroom soup, which is going to go on next. All right. Pepper. This is the last of my black pepper, I'm afraid. So I'm going to use it all, because I like black pepper in my casserole. A little bit of rosemary, dried rosemary. Again, a little bit goes a long way with this. So just that little bit. And then the ever popular garlic powder. This is brand new. I think I still have some in the old container. I do. So let's use that first. Yeah, just a covering. Okay, that's the end of that. That can go away in the recycling bin. Now, you see how this is? We're going to stir this up. Now, normally I would use my favorite stirring implement, but in this case I'm going to use the slotted spoon, which is going to allow all that stuff to sort of move around. It'll also cut the tuna a little bit finer as it's cutting into the tuna casserole. So now at this point I'm going to add cream of mushroom soup. All right, put that over there. I'm going to get this whole can in here if we can. There it goes. It's very satisfying, that sound, when the glop falls in. I know it's not terribly appealing looking, but trust me when I tell you, it ends up tasting really good. And then we incorporate that. And this is really what gives it the texture and consistency of a casserole. Now we're cooking with gas. We're almost ready to put this thing in the baking dish. Like I said, this sticks to everything. Last thing we're going to add is the cheese. And I use a lot of it. But I'm going to start by adding about half to the inside of the casserole. Okay. So put a little bit in. Give that a stir. Remember to get all the way to the bottom of this thing. It's still pretty hot, so that cheese is going to start to melt right away. Okay. You want to save out enough to cover the top. All right. Get that incorporated. And this makes for cheesy goodness throughout, which God knows we all love a little cheesy goodness, unless of course you don't eat cheese. I'll take one more handful of this and leave the rest for the top. And we'll incorporate that. Now, some people like to put crunchy things on top. And crunchy things on top is very good. I've had it with pretzels. I've had it with potato chips. I've had it with breadcrumbs, different kinds of breadcrumbs. But my favorite way is just to have it like a macaroni and cheese, right? So you cover it with cheese, because there's never enough cheese. All right, here's my baking dish. Bring that over. Take this gloppy mixture, and we add it to our baking dish. I'll use the slotted spoon for this because I want to get things moving pretty quickly. Now you should only be using about a pound of pasta, but I had a 2-pound bag, so forgive me if it seems a little overfull. We're going to add all of this cheese to the top. We're going to spread it around so that it covers the entire top of the casserole. We have all of our ingredients in there. All right, if you didn't save enough for the top of the casserole, that's okay. It can be a little spotty if it, at times. I've had it, where I didn't leave enough cheese. But the idea is you take half your cheese, you put it inside, the other half you put on top, and then you stick it in the oven. This is done. Last step. Stick it in the oven, 375. I like to do it for about 30 minutes at most. I have done it as much as 40. And it gets a little darker and a little bit crisper on the top and a little bit more crispy on the sides. 25 is not quite enough. The cheese melts, but it's not quite done enough, a little too moist inside. So I've determined that 30 minutes is probably perfect at 375. So that's what we're going to do. Let's stick this in the oven. Isn't that pretty? All your cheese is melted. It's got a nice crust around the outside. All your cheese is melted. And now I'm going to let this cool for a while before I spoon into it and see how it looks on the inside. Tuna noodle casserole, done right. So, it's been sitting and cooling for a little while. Now we're going to try and scoop some out and see how it came out. Oh, this is good. Got a nice crust on top. Honestly, that top cheese is my favorite part. Still moist and tender on the inside. That's right. Cheesy, creamy, delicious casserole. You couldn't ask for better. Thanks again for watching Blake's New York Kitchen. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And try making this at home.